So good morning, everyone. First, how about a round of applause for Susanna and the organizers of the Games for Change Festival. It's really an honor for me to be here on this stage again, and as we'll see in a few minutes, this will follow a progression of a few introductions, a few thoughts, and then a few questions, time permitting. But it's really an honor to open up the conference and open up today's show. So as Susanna mentioned, I'm the CEO of the Entertainment Software Association, which is the trade association that fights to extend the frontiers of this industry in Washington and in the states around the country so that we can continue this wonderful journey we're on when it comes to creative expression. And our membership comprises some of the most exciting companies and some of the most familiar brands in the world, including juggernauts like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. But as you see here, it also includes a number of really cutting-edge companies that are redefining the medium, companies like Triceum, Legends of Learning, and Magic Leap. And then, so half of it, that's half of what ESA is our membership. This is the team that gets it done. To remove some of the mystery, this is the ESA contingent based in Washington, D.C. These are nice people, pretty much all human, really smart, and they're the ones that actually make the magic happen when it comes to the work that we do. But before we get into the thoughts part of the program, I want to recognize the leading experts and innovators from so many different fields that will discuss the myriad ways video games can be used to improve our lives and society. These include some of the brightest minds from the video game ecosystem, from educators to indie developers to policymakers to NGOs. These also include my colleagues at ESA, the ESA Foundation, and our member companies and our partner organizations. Immediately following me, you'll hear from Constance Steinkuhler. Now, Constance is well known to everybody in this room. She's currently a professor of informatics at the University of California, Irvine, and president of the Higher Education Video Game Alliance, which is a consortium of 300 of the top college and university video game design programs. She's an incredible industry partner, and she's a champion of this industry in the highest levels of government, and she's been doing this for years. She's absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure we'll learn from her. Later today, ESA's Kevin O'Hanlon will participate in a panel on inspiring youth to become video game developers. And tomorrow, ESA's Nika Neuer will moderate a panel featuring the women behind the incredible voice work in Activision Blizzard's game Overwatch. And notably for everybody in this room, tomorrow, ESA's Foundation Executive Director Anastasia Staton will moderate a panel featuring industry veterans Craig Hagan of Electronic Arts and Alan Lewis of Take-Two Interactive. Their discussion of policy, workforce development, and innovation is sure to be invaluable to everyone here. And most important, Anastasia is the keys to the kingdom when it comes to funding ideas and initiatives like so many that are represented here at this program. Besides those leaders, we have so many others: Mark Delora, Graham Devine, Jesse Schell, Ozzy Barak, Andre Thomas, Drew Davidson, Louise Dubé, Tracy Fullerton, and Eric Martin, all of them great partners of ESA, and all of them great leaders. And I hope you're as eager to discover together with the many brilliant experts here this week the next steps we're going to take to drive the broader future of interactive entertainment. In its roughly 4 decades, entertainment software has advanced considerably. Pixelated alien invaders have given rise to visually stunning space operas. And the iconic 8-bit two-dimensional plumber who's been with us for most of our 4 decades will soon embark on a beautiful new odyssey. And our impact on society has grown as well. Where do we go next? I look forward to hearing answers to those questions as we go through the next several days. In the 10 years since I joined ESA, the industry has undergone a startling and awe-inspiring transformation. Worldwide, we are now a $100 billion industry. $100 billion. In the US, we've gone from $9.5 billion to $30.4 billion in revenue, and that's just the beginning. As this immersive technology illustrates, we're no longer just an entertainment industry. We are the center of the tech universe. Mary Meeker pointed that out earlier this year with the release of her tome on the future of the internet. And we're driving improvements in education, medicine, artificial intelligence, and other sectors vital to our economy and our future. As we prepare to hear more and discuss these incredible applications for video games, I would like to share some highlights from the evolution of our industry through the past decade, in addition to some ways we can all continue working together to expand this remarkably powerful, beautiful, and positive industry that we share. We've met many challenges over the years. No doubt many more lie ahead. But by looking back and remembering how far we have come and the champions that have grown among us, I'm inspired by the brilliant future of change that lies ahead, powered by you and the magic of interactive entertainment. And at this point, I'll pose a question. What is success for our industry? We'll come back to that, but I would ask that you think about that for the next several minutes. So 10 years ago, two policy issues dominated the industry landscape. We didn't do it, and don't take my stuff. So we didn't do it on the first issue. Together with the support of many of you in this room, our industry prevailed in the US Supreme Court in 2011, conclusively establishing constitutional creative freedom for our industry and definitively refuting the lie that our art form causes real-world violence. That was a big moment. Thank you. Now, on the second issue, our industry has become a dynamic leader in redefining the paradigm of copyright and copyright enforcement. In 2007, intellectual property theft was an enormous problem for the industry, costing us billions of dollars in sales as a result of this illicit activity. ESA devoted a lot of time and energy to the issue. As part of our global content protection program and intellectual property enforcement efforts, we work with both national and international actors to support enforcement initiatives that protect our members' creative works. But very importantly to everyone in this room, we've also evolved our approach. In our industry, the consumer, the gamer, is a partner in the creative experience. In our industry, unlike other industries, our business models and enforcement efforts put the gamer in the front seat. Today, we represent and lead the industry on a broad range of complex policy issues that have wide-ranging impact, giving the industry the freedom and bandwidth to focus on what it does best, creativity and innovation, and it's paid off. In the 2000s, developers were limited to physical game sales by brick-and-mortar retail stores. Processing speeds were slow, and online connectivity was in its earliest stages. And in most instances, players had to purchase memory cards to save data. Social gameplay meant two controllers on one console. Today, games can be delivered wired or wirelessly through digital storefronts, processing speeds are blinding, online connectivity is a given, and game data can be saved in a nanosecond in the cloud. And billions of gamers from around the world play online at the same time on any device. And mobile technology has also provided our industry an entirely new platform for playing video games, while expanding the variety of games and experiences available to gamers. Game genres and business models that did not exist 10 years ago are taking our industry by storm, and mobile technology to new heights. Mobile has democratized game creativity, game creation. Mobile has brought in billions of dollars in revenue and potential revenue, and it's expanded the market to worldwide in an instant. And there's no greater example or fuel for that than Unity. Unity Technologies' game engine, the most popular third-party game development software in the mobile space, is now running on 2.4 billion mobile devices around the world. That's almost 1/3 of the world's mobile devices in total. And importantly, and this is a fact I like to reinforce but is not often repeated, 80% of the revenue in the Apple App Store and Google Play, 80% is from video games. It's from the creative energy in this room, 80%. So since the iPhone debuted 10 years ago, it's been that way constantly. The gamers today drive the present and the future of the mobile economy. But as we know, playing is no longer the only way we interact with video game content. Through sophisticated streaming services, video games have become watchable entertainment, and professional video game competitions have risen to the level of traditional sports. Esports has become a $500 million industry, and it's expected to reach $1 billion later this year. And colleges and universities have begun offering scholarship to players of games like League of Legends. The viewership of the finals of major esports events are bigger than the NBA Finals or the World Series. And this last week, there was demographic data released about the average age of the viewers of major sports. The average viewer who watches golf, 64 years old. The NFL, 50. And the youngest of the major sports, soccer, the youngest age is 40. And all of those numbers are going up. So where are the consumers of tomorrow, the leaders of tomorrow? The average age of the esports viewer is 28. So much potential lies here in our medium if you want to engage the leaders of tomorrow. And then, of course, as Susanna mentioned, there's virtual reality, which is the newest path that our industry has taken in redefining the interface between humans and machines. This entire medium, this entire technological breakthrough that is happening in real time today has its roots, once again, in the video game industry. So through this incredible advancement in game technology, the world is experiencing what has captured its imagination for decades. And it's important to think about this, put this in some perspective. Here we go. When I stood on this stage 2 years ago, virtual and augmented reality was a $0 billion business. There was no revenue, there was no jobs, there was nothing. So this year, it's now immersive technologies are a $6.1 billion business. So from nothing to 6, it's expected to reach $13 billion by the end of the year and $143 billion by 2020. Not surprisingly, as Susanna mentioned, there's now a third day of Games for Change focused on this juggernaut that's taking root in our industry, and it's very exciting. Now, each step forward in our industry has also affected the video game community. It's made us more connected and more expansive. Once limited to 1 or 2 players on the couch, multiplayer games today can be played by thousands across the globe. In the US, ESA's most recent Essential Facts about the Computer and Video Game Industry report found 53% of the most frequent gamers play multiplayer games at least once a week, spending an average of 6 hours playing with others online. And video games are a mainstream part of cultures around the world. According to renowned trend spotter and venture capitalist Mary Meeker, in her Internet Trends report, there are now 2.6 billion gamers in the world, which, as I like to remind people, means we only have about 5 billion more to go. There's a lot of growth out there for us yet to achieve. In America, nearly 2/3 of households are home to at least one person who plays video games regularly. Men and women, young and old, these gamers are diverse. 42% of gamers are women, and 26% are age 50 or older. And adult women represent a significantly greater portion of the regular game-playing population than boys under the age of 18. And among gamers 50 and older, the distribution between men and women is 50-50. Gamers don't stop playing when they start a family. Rather, our audience grows as they introduce their kids to video games. More than 2/3 of American parents now play video games with their children at least once weekly, and 71% of American parents say that games have a positive influence on their children. Good work by the people in this room. The evolution of the video game industry and its spectacular rise in popularity across all demographics have made video games a regular part of daily life. Now ingrained in numerous cultures, entertainment software is uniquely positioned to drive positive change, truly transforming our society and our lives. All of that growth and innovation now inspires an industry policy discussion much more diverse than the 2 issues that I raised just a moment ago. We now are focused on virtual currency, privacy, data security, broadband deployment, ratings on mobile and digital platforms, trade, tax reform, patent reform, drones, artificial intelligence, and most recently, as some of you may have noted, state and local taxes that single out the gamer to finance the operations of government. And that was a lawsuit we filed against the city of Chicago. That's the portfolio that we're now advancing for the industry. And then look at Games for Change. Without all of you and others like you, this potential would be unfulfilled. So we're here to take the next step. And you've done outstanding work to apply games, game principles, and game technologies to fields outside of entertainment, finding creative solutions to shared challenges. 10 years ago, as you can see in this graphic here, the Games for Change Festival featured just 34 speakers and 300 attendees. This year, as Susanna reminded us, there will be more than 100 speakers and close to 1,000 attendees. Again, over half of those being women. That's excellent. At ESA, we're confident that your continued efforts will advance impactful solutions that video games will have in the years ahead, and you have our full support. So at ESA, we're particularly interested in the intersection of games and education and collaborate with partners to support and promote video game use in the classroom. In fact, that's probably the one thing that hasn't really changed in the past 10 years. Many of our members directly drive innovation in education, such as Microsoft and Minecraft, and Andre Thomas and his work with Triceum. But for 17 years now, our industry has supported your work and that of your colleagues through our philanthropic arm, the ESA Foundation. Since its inception in 2000, the ESA Foundation has provided millions in support to innovative and diverse projects that harness the power of video game technology to benefit and create opportunities for America's youth. Each year, ESA Foundation grants support schools and nonprofit organizations leveraging video game technology to enhance education and creatively respond to current issues impacting today's youth, such as lessening the gender gap in STEM fields or helping a child with cancer cope with treatment. Programs we support help reinforce math and science skills, bring history to life, and increase civic participation. In my time at ESA, we've seen our foundation support help some truly remarkable programs and do amazing things for kids across the country. At the top of that list is Icivics, which is a company founded by U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She created a game-based learning platform to help teach civics. Who would have thought? First launched in 2009, Icivics has reached 5 million students in all 50 states, and its 19 educational games have been played 45 million times since its start. In 2016, we proudly partnered with Icivics to update one of its marquee games, Win the White House. Pretty good timing for that sponsorship. The game, which teaches middle school students about government by immersing them in politics, was the perfect tool for teachers to help their students navigate the 2016 presidential election, or at least most of it. Win the White House was played an incredible 3.9 million times between March and the election itself. Now, perhaps we can convince Louise Dubé to send a few complimentary copies over to the White House, and we could all be moving ahead together. At the ESA Foundation supported another of its grantees, Hope Lab, and its video games Remission and Remission 2. We've done that for 10 years straight. Remission was the first video game scientifically proven to improve health outcomes for young people with cancer. The games are designed to motivate players to stick to their treatments by boosting positive emotions and shifting attitudes about chemotherapy treatment. This year, the ESA Foundation also continued its support of Bootstrap, an organization that teaches students algebra by having them program their own game. The program has reached thousands of economically disadvantaged students since it began in 2005, including an estimated 6,500 girls and 7,000 minority students every year. The ESA Foundation grant funding has helped the program expand its in-school offerings, but perhaps even more importantly, it has also helped Bootstrap make its software available to students with disabilities. In 2016, Bootstrap updated its software infrastructure to ensure its software is compatible with assistive technologies such as screen readers. The organization also created a function that provides text descriptions of complex graphics accurately and quickly. These improvements have given disabled students the same opportunity to learn computer programming and create their own video games as other students, something that was not possible through any prior software. The impact of these accessibility improvements funded by the Foundation is bigger than just Bootstrap. The organization has open sourced all of these features so other educators and developers can freely access these accessibility improvements, ensuring all students can enjoy and benefit from the educational power of video games. It's really a remarkable, remarkable story. One final example is Extra Life. 6 years ago, we began a journey with Children's Miracle Network and their hospitals. And Extra Life was a game competition set up by a very passionate individual, Jeremy Adams. Jeremy was our awardee at the Night to Unite that we had last year. And 6 years ago, at the time when this was just a radio program, $500,000 a year being raised for Children's Miracle hospitals, Jeremy approached us at ESA and said, "We think we could do more if we partnered with the industry. Would you help us?" And we said yes. And last year, on one day in November, the gamers of this country and this industry together raised $8 million in one day for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, bringing the total that we've raised over our 6 years to $30 million. And this goes to the kids that need the help the most. It's one of the most compelling things that the Foundation's done, and we're incredibly moved and honored to partner with CMN. But outside of the Foundation, we also partner aggressively and in a very, very positive way with a number of great organizations, especially in the education space, to create a new generation of games and technology that will impact more than just entertainment. We have to work together, educators, developers, publishers, doctors, researchers, psychologists, and everyone in between. Our 6-year partnership of the National STEM Video Game Challenge and our partnership at Glass Lab with Electronic Arts, the Institute of Play, Zynga, the Educational Testing Service, and Pearson demonstrate our commitment to this ideal. Thanks to funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, Glass Lab brought together the expertise of the video game industry and the education sector to create, research, and share knowledge about video games. And as we'll hear quite a bit tomorrow, Unity is very successful for a number of reasons. One of them is bringing Jessica Lindell aboard a few months ago. She is the leader who built Glass Lab from an idea to reality. At ESA, we want to work with all of you to expand the potential of video games to change our lives and our society. We also want to enhance understanding among policymakers, educators, healthcare providers, nonprofit organizations, and business leaders who are not already with us. As I mentioned, ESA is based in Washington, D.C., a location that provides us with access to policymakers and opinion leaders and enables us to tell the story of how video games are improving what matters to an influential audience. Our location in D.C. also enables us to counter politicians and public figures who make misguided claims about video games or try to use them as a scapegoat for societal problems. These characters that you see here are never around for very long, and many of them get run out of office by voters, disbarred, or worse. Now, I will note that Arnold here behind me has bounced back after his 7-2 Supreme Court loss and by leaving office in infamy. He's done that by embracing our industry with over 100 million downloads of his Game of War advertised game on iOS and Android. So putting that to the side where it belongs, we have the honor to carry your stories to those who do understand, those who do know, those who do get it. And that's the Videogame Caucus, and behind me you see the faces of many of the members of that caucus. In 2011, we worked with Kevin Brady and Debbie Wasserman Schultz to launch the caucus, and it now has more than 120 members, and this is the caucus that says we're for video games, we want to work with the industry, and we want to bring the magic of the industry into policy. And just recently, we worked with Representatives Yvette Clarke, Suzanne Delbene, Bill Flores, Darrell Issa, and Ted Lieu to launch a second caucus focused only on immersive technologies. It's called the Reality Caucus, and it's still in its infancy, just a few months old, but its co-chairs are working to educate policymakers and the public about the economic, educational, society benefits of immersive technologies. And this image here, it's from last week at Comic-Con. It's a live Twitch stream of Congressman Issa, who you can see standing in the back, quite excited, playing Congressman Peters, who's down here on this end, right behind me, led by ESA's Nika Noor. This happened just a week ago, and you can see the magic of our industry touches everybody, including members of Congress. So last year, we also launched the definitive U.S. map of our industry. This, behind me, is us. All 50 states, over 3,000 companies, over 220,000 employees, and over 400 universities. And before closing and taking a few questions, I'd like to bring back the question I posed at the outset. It's been a fun walkthrough for me to share these thoughts with you, but what is success for our industry? Is it $1 billion in sales? Is it $100 billion in sales? Is it 1 billion gamers, 2 billion, 3 billion? Is it games that cost nothing to the consumer? Is it games on every device? Is it games that you can play anywhere in the world at any time? We get to the deeper questions when we ask, can every citizen of the world enjoy our medium? Is our industry fully inclusive of all artists and innovators who aspire to make games? Are we impacting the dialogue that our country needs to have in the years ahead if we're going to continue to lead the world? And so in preparation for this discussion, I thought I would leave my stab at it and see where this ends or how it goes over the next 3 days. And I would posit that it's a united world of game makers and players of every denomination, age, nationality, or any other form of identity, thriving in the magic of enjoying and expressing our shared destiny through interactive entertainment. Together bringing the dynamic and innovative intersection, video games, cutting-edge technology, and artistic expression to every dimension of society and social challenge. The answer is, it doesn't end. We don't accept game over, and we will always play on, as it should be. So with that, I say thank you for allowing me to share time with you today, and look forward to your questions. Any questions?
But I'm just wondering about the global aspects of what you're doing. Do you count on others to handle the things outside the U.S.? I mean, you've made many remarks about helping people outside the U.S., and I'd like to see how that can be taken forward, and if you'd like to do something at the UN, I'd like to arrange it.
So the question, for those that didn't hear the beginning, is from an international perspective, what resources does ESA need, does the industry need to make sure these messages are carried around the world? I think that's a fair summary. First thing is, you have a fantastic ambassador that leads the United Nations from the United States, in Nikki Haley. She is terrific. I've known her for years, and she has a very, very tough job. She's doing a great job doing it. From our perspective, we have great leaders around the world who represent the industry in various parts of the world. So there's an association that's in Europe, there's another one in Germany, there's another one in Japan, and then also in Brazil. We work together with our colleagues to make sure we have a shared understanding of how to move the industry forward. It all needs to be localized in each country. It can't just be done one way or the American way. We've seen that that doesn't work so well over time. And so we work to socialize and come together. And also remember, the strength of all of this when it comes to international is those logos that I put up in the second slide. ESA's membership is very international. Sony and Nintendo are Japanese companies. Ubisoft is a French company. We have great American companies. That worldwide perspective is what drives our work. We also leverage the international nature of our members to make sure that it echoes throughout the world through my colleagues that lead other associations. But I think through the UN, when there's opportunities to do things together to make sure that the message is known when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to awareness of different social challenges, freedom of speech, we're an excellent partner. And so I would say that that's the path that we would follow. Another question. Wow, Tim, right here. Again, your name and who you're with.
Is there a cultural, educational versus entertainment software association? Or your umbrella covers education and social change? Obviously, if you funded Icivic.
So the answer to that question is there's only one video game trade association, and that's us. And what we do is we're obviously focused on advancing the business and public affairs needs of the industry as a whole. And believe me, those are changing. As I went through the issue matrix, it's very complex. But as part of that, it was very clearly drawn to me 10 years ago, we represent everyone in the community because they have nowhere else to go. So we have 2 million followers of ESA on social media. We're just a trade association. We're the most boring part of this industry by far. And we have 2 million people that follow us because they need a voice too. So you have IGDA that represents the game developers themselves. But when it comes to the cultural aspects, it's our partnership with groups like Games for Change and working through our foundation that we bring voice to those. So we see that as an area that we can always do better, and we always want to grow and expand. But it's through those, we're it. Another question, perhaps the last one, because I see that we're running out of time. Back here.
Hi, I'm Kirk Musney. I'm an independent game designer based out of Richmond, Virginia. And my question, or more so wondering your opinion on the intersection between commercial companies and independent developers and independent experimenters. There's a lot of money that you mentioned and a lot of numbers that hit a lot of big companies, but I think a lot of the innovation comes from people who aren't in academia and who don't have access, who are sort of marginalized and have problems getting into these big companies. So I guess my question to you is, how does the ESA work with smaller groups, especially with independent developers, those who don't have the money, who don't have those connections?
That's a great question. And so from our perspective, again, we represent the whole industry. When the whole industry grows and expands, then everyone prospers, everybody does well. And in particular, what I would point out is all of the major companies that you saw in those logos, they were small at one point. And so it's our philosophy, we dropped our dues and did a variety of things several years ago, probably about 8 years ago, to be more approachable to smaller members. And you see that when you have companies like Vantiv, Triceum, Legends of Learning. They're in the early stages of becoming the next big company, and the doors are very open for them to be part of our ranks and to bring voice and meaning to our work. And when you see the map that we have behind us, if you go to that, areweinyourstate.org, if you go there, you'll see that every game company we know of is listed, every single one. So that when we speak as an industry, we do this together, we're identifying with this constituent interest that's in all 50 states. It's everywhere. Games are being made, the game development's fully democratized right now. Anybody can make games. The last thing I'd leave you with is I've watched an incredible transformation of the leading members that I mentioned at the beginning, which were very focused on their own game platforms, their own game studios, now very open to the contribution of independent game makers and game developers. They're desperate to get, not desperate, but they're very excited to have the contributions that come from the genius of the game that we didn't know would happen. You think about it a year ago, what was everybody doing? They were running around playing Pokemon Go. I still play. But it's a phenomenon that was taking the country from a company called Niantic that came from out of nowhere. So these great opportunities, these great stories that are yet to be told, our aspiration is to be open to all of them. And through these social media channels, you can stay connected with us and us with you. And if you have something you want to share or something you want to say, you can reach us. It goes right into the process, and we move ahead together. So I think they're giving me the hook. Is Constance ready? Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time being with us.